I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, hosting episode 18 of Ask Dave. These videos answer your questions about ham radio, particularly those of interest to folks new to the hobby. Today's video addresses the topic of logging. Not cutting down trees, mind you, but keeping a record of your contacts, or as they're more commonly called, QSOs. It used to be a legal requirement that every amateur radio station have a logbook. Every QSO, or for that matter even CQs that weren't answered, needed to be logged. Mobile contacts needed to be logged. Everything. You even had to sign your logbook. The ARRL published a logbook that met the FCC requirements, and I dutifully kept one as a new novice. Well, that's all changed now. No logbook of any kind is required. In a way, that's a shame because it makes contacts so ephemeral, almost as if they never happened. But there are good arguments for not bothering with a log, particularly on VHF and UHF. Often those contacts are mobile, and trying to write in a logbook while driving is sort of like texting while driving, both difficult and dangerous. And on the VHF and UHF bands, we are often talking with hams we've spoken with many times before. I gave up VHF-UHF logging once it was no longer required. HF is another matter, and there are solid reasons to log HF contacts. On HF, it's not often that you talk with the same person twice. So a simple log entry is what we have left of the conversation, much like the way a photograph in an album is a record of a past memory. Now to more solid reasons. There are lots of awards for things like how many countries you've worked, how many states, and so on. Plus, there are numerous contests on the air seemingly every weekend. And lots of folks like working DX or having a QSO with an overseas ham, and many hams enjoy chasing after the rare ones. Doing all this means keeping track of contacts made. I recommend you log all your HF contacts. Hams often exchange QSL cards after contacts. Although not as common a practice as in times past, it's still alive and well. A couple days ago, I received an envelope from the W0 QSL Bureau, which distributes QSL cards coming in from overseas. I received 2 cards from Japanese stations, both for QSOs from back in 2014. They want my card for their collection. Before I send a card back confirming contact, which that station might use for an award, I want to be sure the contact actually happened. And how do I do that? By looking in my logbook, of course. Let's take an example. Here's a card from JA8IZP for a QSO on September 16, 2014. Note the date format used by the Japanese, year, month, and day. It varies from country to country. Sure enough, in my logbook, I have an entry for that QSO. So I happily wrote out a reply card, which I will send back via the ARRL outgoing QSL Bureau. One may ask, and rightly so, what place logging has in the electronic world. In fact, QSLing is moving more and more online. But again, accurate logs are the key. You upload your logs, and these are matched with logs uploaded by other stations around the world. So, regardless of the medium used, what information is logged? The answer, anything you want, although that usually includes the UTC time and date, the call sign and location of the station worked, the signal reports both given and received, the band, and the mode. You can log anything else you want, such as the name of the other operator, what rig is used, whether QSL cards have been exchanged, and so forth. Here's my first logbook. The cover has a place for my call sign, which was WN7AIU when I began ham radio. Also included are the logbook number, start date, and end date. Inside the log is a place for me to sign it, which was a legal requirement back then, an indication as to how the time is recorded, and the station location. Note that I started by maintaining my log in local California Pacific Daylight Time, but quickly abandoned that in favor of Universal Coordinated Time, or UTC, sometimes called GMT or Zulu. UTC is the standard time for radio stations all over the world. Here's a look at the info inside. See the date and time, the station called or called by, the other person's RST, that's the report I gave the other station, the RST I received, the frequency, many hams simply note the band, the emission type or mode, in this case A1, which indicated CW. Also recorded was my power and the time of ending the QSO. The other data field was for things such as the other operator's name, location, and so on. Also, there is a place to record whether a QSL card was sent or received. This was long before the days of electronic QSLing. Well, that's all well and good, but I found it convenient to keep a spiral-bound notebook handy to record information during the QSO, which I would later enter into my log. It didn't take too long to dawn on me that the spiral-bound notebook could serve as my logbook. For the sake of convenience, in 1991, I had this rubber stamp made. I stamped the little form on the page, then record as many notes from the QSO as I want, then stamp the page for the next QSO. Here's an example of how I do it now. I put the date over here by the side, noting that this is the UTC date, record the call sign of the other station, the start and stop times, the signal reports, the frequency and the mode. I will often jot down what radio I used, which antenna, and other little details. Then below the stamp, I use the area to jot notes during the QSO. This enjoyable QSO touched on many things, such as the particulars of Rod's station, his woodworking hobby, and so on. After the QSO ended, I drew a line and then stamped the page ready for the next QSO. I also used my log to record significant events. For example, shown here, is when I put my new FTDX 3000 into service. Here's a note on an antenna repair. And here I recorded the results of some antenna testing. And on the inside cover, I record my location, my grid square, my Feldhell number, Colorado QRP club number, SKCC number, and for reference, my CQ zone. This is information I may have to leap to quickly, so it's right where it's handy. Now, I should mention that there's a difference between logs kept for contesting and logs for casual conversations. Each contest has its own rules, and part of the rules describe the exchange. The exchange is the information you give the other station and the information the other station gives you. Here's an example of a contest log. This is for the National Contest Journal North American QSO Party held in January every year. I downloaded the rules for the contest, plus special log sheets. I needed to keep track of the QSO number, the UTC time, the band, the call sign of the other station operator's name, and the other station's state. The last column, which counts multipliers, is for use in figuring your contest score. I thought I might stick a toe in the water for this particular contest. It wasn't long and I was up to 100 QSOs. I took a break, then popped 10 more contacts into the log. And this led to some soul searching. Like a dummy, I'd recorded my contest log on paper. Did I really want to transfer 110 contacts into the computer? Shouldn't I have logged these into the computer as I completed them? Of course I should have. Lots of hams keep their logs on their computers. It's not only easier in the long run, but also the computer logs can interface directly with online logging and QSL systems such as eQSL and Logbook of the World, or LOTW. In fact, if my electronic log says there's a match in Logbook of the World, that's as good as exchanging paper cards. There's lots of logging software out there. I'll mention just 3. Ham Radio Deluxe is primarily used for its digital capabilities, but it has an automatic logging system that will transfer your digital contacts right into the HRD logbook. And the logbook also connects automatically to EQSL and Logbook of the World. You can sort it 7 ways to Sunday. It's a popular logging program for digital operating. It's great for logging as you go, but I find it difficult to use for logging contacts after the fact. And HRD is no longer free. Contesters often use the free software from N1MM shown here. This software is specially designed so that it can work for myriad contests and adapts itself for each. For example, for the North American QSO party, there's no station class, but for field day there is. The software also communicates with your radio to grab frequency, plus it has a built-in keyer. Lots of cool stuff. I'll mention one other, and that's a suite of software from N3FJP. It actually has many pieces of software, one for each contest you participate in. Our club uses it for our field day logs. It also has a general purpose log for casual contacts or DX. And it has the built-in capability to connect with EQSL and Logbook of the World. A question immediately arises as to compatibility between these logging programs. The answer is that there is a universal file type called ADIF, which stands for Amateur Data Interchange Format. You can export data from one logging program into another. Let me point out the usual caveats about what I'll call computer hygiene. Keep backups and know how to use them. Make sure passwords are properly recorded so you won't forget them, and so on. YouTube comments show that viewers like the railroad pictures. So here is a track inspection vehicle at the Silverton, Colorado Depot. The Durango-Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad continues to follow an historic line set up in 1881 using steam locomotives that date to 1925. I hope you found this overview of logging helpful. I do encourage you to log all your HF contacts either on paper or on your computer. Now, here's an announcement from Ask Dave. I've had many requests over the past couple years for the technician training videos on DVD. Well, now the set, consisting of 3 DVDs, is now available on my website at ke0og.net for $30, with free shipping anywhere in the United States. These are the original tech videos and will continue to be free online on YouTube or by going to ke0og.net/training. Also, I'm really pleased to report that my channel has now crossed the 1 million views mark. I hope these videos are proving useful, and I appreciate your feedback and questions. Please subscribe to this channel to get announcements about future videos. To submit a question for Ask Dave, you can do so either via a comment to this video or at ke0og.net/ask-dave. There's a tip jar available on my YouTube channel page or by going to ke0og.net/tip-jar. Keep those questions coming. Until we next meet, 73.